Welcome to Let Out the Clutch, brought to you by My Biker Attorney. Today I've got my friend Mick with me today. Mick, say hello.
How you doing?
Mick, I've known you a long time. Been acquaintances. You've actually painted one of my bikes a long time
How
ago.
many years has it been?
That was a long time ago. It was a 2011 Road Glide, and I think you even came up here and did it for me. It had red
Gosh, dang.
stripes on it, and I wanted it blue, but it's been a while.
Yeah, we did change it, didn't we?
Yeah. So how did you get into pinstriping and painting? Where'd you get your passion for this kind of thing?
Well, I grew up on the East Coast, and I spent the first part of my life out there, which I got the accent for here, but I spent the first part of my life out there, and everything that came through the shop. My father had a shop, or when I was a kid, we were at the drag strip or something, and I got to be around some really cool cars, and some of them were pretty famous. And everybody knew my father was in a family, and the family, everybody knew everybody in the family.
Understood.
And people would come. We had dualies, and everything had to be striped. And the striper would show up, and we had horses. First of all, I don't look like a cowboy, but I grew up riding horses and showing horses, and on the East Coast, and everything had to be pinstriped and lettered, trailers, everything, and then custom painted. And I was blessed to be in that element, and I built model cars all the time. Won my first national model contest when I was 9 years old, and I thought that was really cool. And I still believe that the coolest thing is the sunset with the silhouette of the car in it and the palm trees.
Right.
So that's there I grew up in. And and everything needs to be like the Bultaco paint jobs. I think all that stuff's cool. But we rode dirt bikes, did all that stuff, and then we moved to Oklahoma, and it was pretty much a culture shock to me, because I went from having a whole bunch of stuff to not having anything anymore. And that was the life that was chosen. And started again. And I painted my first bike in Oklahoma when I was 14 years old. And now, I mean, by bike, I mean, I did a bicycle, and then I did a motorcycle. And we call Harley scooters.
Okay.
So the bike I did was this is funny, but in the 70s, Honda choppers were cool. And I mean, there was a lot of them. And I did a Honda chopper, and it was a fade job. And I did the whole thing, and I got $400 for doing it. And I thought, man, I was rich. $400 is a lot of money to me.
No kidding.
And my father said, "You live under my roof." And we were living outside of Allen, Oklahoma, in these little brick houses. And I had a really good artist across from me named Chester Scott. Oh, I'm saying names.
It's okay.
I don't know.
We're not dogging anybody today. So
No. Chester Scott, world renowned Indian artist, and his son Tim Scott is on my Facebook. And I loved him. I loved him. He was very good to me, very inspirational, and said, you got a lot of talent. Why don't you do something with it?" I said, "Yeah, I'm gonna do hot rods." So I kept building model cars, painted that motorcycle. Boom, there's one motorcycle. By the time I was 16, I'd painted two more. Then we had some Angels friends hang around, and I painted some of their bikes, and I was doing flames. Man, 16-year-old kid, 17-year-old kid doing flames. And I thought I was cool. Time progresses. I did my own car when I was 17 years. I was doing paint and body work for my father. When we moved to Oklahoma, things changed a lot. And I was going down painting trucks. First metal flake van that I did I was a 16-year-old kid. Did a metal flake van, silver metal flake, fish scales to be exact. And it was all lacquer back then. And I don't even remember how many coats there was to make it what it was. We did the graphics and everything, Dodge van. Did another one after that, and then my brother's car. And then my Nova took me 2.5 years to do, and it was indigo blue metal flake with black lacquer, and I did that one, and man, it was just on after that. And then I took a job, got married. I actually went back east first for a little while and worked in advertising, and came back to Oklahoma, got married, got a job, and was always doing what I do. And
Were you painting here in Oklahoma when you came
yes,
back?
I was. And I had a lot of people that would come around, and I did some stuff. I never could make any money in Ada, Oklahoma. Not to say that's bad, but it was always one of them deals of who do you know type deal,
Right.
And I went to work for a guy, and let's just call him Mike, and he was one of the best I've ever seen, best pinstriper, and he scooped me up and had me do some eagles on his tanks. He said, "You can do these." Yeah, I could do them. And I went and met him, and I did a couple eagles, and I was getting $1,200. And I thought, wow, man, are you kidding me? And I was still young. I was probably, I don't know, maybe in my late 20s. And I was painting in my father's barn, airbrushing and doing this. And I took him to him, and he paid me. That went on for a little while. And he was quite the renowned Harley artist, very good. And he'd do flames.
Your dad?
No, this guy Mike.
Mike.
And he would put flames over the eagles, and then I'd see one day, and I was mixing a little bit of brush and airbrushing together and doing them, and I seen one, and I was already in Oklahoma City at Harley World, and I seen the bike, and I went, I did that eagle, and I looked at it, and I said, man, that's beautiful, it's beautiful. And I went and seen him at his shop, and I said, man, I saw one of the eagles, and they're just beautiful. And I said, man, I love it. And he said, yeah. And I didn't do any more for him. And it was weird. It just like stopped. And I seen him one day at Harley World, and I said, hey, man, the eagles look beautiful, like that. And he said, yeah. He said, let me tell you something. He said, name on the back fender? And I said, yeah. He said, you didn't paint that eagle. That's who painted that eagle.
So he took credit for your work.
Yeah, he did. Well, I got paid, and I didn't know how that's worked.
But he took the liberty of
I
taking
loved
the
him, man. I did. He showed me. He told me. He said, "What you need to do is be smart and keep a real job, and not do what we do, what he was doing." And I migrated to Harley World. I met a lot of people along the way. Of course, I was working for Wild West by then, and Wild West said, you don't need to be with him. You need to, blah, blah, blah. You know how it works. And I loved him. I truly loved him. He was a good man. And I learned a lot from him.
Do you take classes on
No,
techniques?
I never, man, it was all trial and error. I mean, and I always tell people when the kids come up, I call them kids, everybody's kid to me. And you know how that works. And you talk to them, and they'll come up and they'll go, that's me. And they'll go, oh man, and I said, yeah, well, I'm a pinstriper. Can you give me some tips? And I said, yeah, just when you think you're good enough, you're never good enough. Just always remember that. And that's exactly how it works.
And you've had quite a few of your bikes go on to be photographed and put into magazines.
I have, and TV. And
do you have any idea how many's been in magazines?
no, I was once asked that. And like I say, I attribute a lot of stuff to the people that I met early in my life. And Howard was very good to me, and so
He's a
was
photographer.
Yes, Howard Kelly. And
he's still a friend of yours today.
Yes, and Mike Lichter, I literally which I don't know if Mike even remembers. I'm sure Mike does remember me, but I kind of lost touch with a lot of people. But early in that time, I was invited to Harley Davidson World. Pat, I don't know if you remember Pat.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Pat invited me up to Harley World, and she said, I want you to meet somebody. And I went up and seen Pat. I just did Jason, her nephew's. I did a pinup on the back of his tank, and I painted his truck. And, in Ada, I was doing about anything I could just to make money. And a guy came to see me named Jim Marble. And do you know Jim Morrow?
I do not.
Superbikes.
Okay.
You remember Superbikes?
I do.
Jim was awesome, man. He came down and gave me a break, and in that time I was invited to Oklahoma City to come see a lady named I called her Elsa. Her name was Elsie.
She owned the dealership down there.
Yes, she did. And I called her. She was first lady of Oklahoma City, is what I called her. And
What was it, 29th Street, something like that, down there?
it was actually on 29th in the beginning when I met her, and it was somewhere else too, but on 29th, and then it went up to Agnew, and I went to meet her, and when she was on 29th, it was kind of
I forgot about the move to Agnew because
Yeah.
they built
They
it.
built it.
They
She
put a
built it.
restaurant there too.
yes, and she invited Pat invited me up, and before then I was going to 29th, and I met Elsie, but Elsie was kind of like didn't really know me. Everybody only knew that guy Mike, and I was just a kid. Um, uh, Pat called me, and I went up to see Pat, and um, they grabbed me and started talking to me, and she said, "I want you to meet somebody." And I went in and I said, "Oh, you're the lady I bought the seat from." And she said, "What seat's that?" And I said, "For my FX." And she said, "Yeah." And she didn't remember me. And she said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm a painter." And Pat started telling, and she said, "Come with me." And we walked through the place, and she said, "Well, do something." So I'm painting a bike for Pat. I get it done. And she introduces me one day as, "This is my painter. This
Very
is
nice.
my guy." And she told me that. And she said, "Now I want to take you and show you something." And she walked me through the new dealership deal, what they were doing.
On Agnew?
And yeah. And I said, "Wow, this is going to be cool." And she said, "Yeah." And then we go, time goes on. I go back there, and she said, "I want to show you something upstairs." And not a lot of people knew, but there was an apartment upstairs.
There was a restaurant upstairs.
There was a
I don't
restaurant
remember
too.
Didn't know
There was a restaurant. She brought me up there, and she showed me a picture of Mike and her being made in this deal that was going to glow blue, and she was telling me all about it. And she was a proud lady. She deserved every bit she got, and she had known some of the people that I had got involved with, and she was really nice to me. She was very good to me, and as time went on and the dealership sold and changed hands and stuff, I still work for Harley World, and I always
You were there. I showed up there in the last year or two, and you were painting you were doing a demo day down there.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it was. Then if it was an open house or not, but you're inside with Lori, and you were painting, you're pinstriping something inside.
Yeah, I've been blessed that I get to go up there, and I just pretty much I pretty much go up there and just sit around, and people, like I said, I'll announce where I'm going to be, and people will come and visit with me, and they get to ask me questions, and the biggest thing I'm asked, I get people call me all the time and ask me about a paint job they got, and
One that's been done by somebody else.
yes, and it's funny. There's a lot of we live in a society right now where people are trying to grasp for identity,
Okay.
and as well as I do. I mean, you see it a lot, and what better way to identify when you pull up on a really bitchin' Harley,
Wicked with the wicked.
and, yes, and put it on the ground, and
And today people are cheating with that. They're doing these wraps and stuff. It's not the right thing to
and
do.
everything's stenciled, and I mean stickered, and I can honestly tell you there's not stencils or stickers in my shop, and I always tell everybody my computer's broke, so I can't print anything out, but it's funny. I just went through a deal with a guy, which you're familiar with the jacket story.
Yeah.
Um,
You told me that on the phone a couple of days
yeah,
ago.
and he was going through a situation, and he'd been calling me now for about 6 months, and he had it at another place, and I said, "Look, I'm gonna tell you honestly, you got another place. Let the other place do what they're doing." I said, "Man, they're probably capable." Man, they ran you down, and I said, "Who cares? That doesn't define me." And I said, "I'm sure they'll do you a good job." And he said, "Yeah, but," and I said, "Look, trust me, I'm sure they'll do you a good job." Then time goes on, and he keeps calling and wanting to bring it for the artwork, which we spoke about this. And I said, "You know what? I think the best thing is for them to finish the work.
That's
So-
funny in my world too. I had a call this past week. Someone wanted me to take over a case for somebody
Mhm.
that they had a lawyer they're not happy with, and I, I don't poach.
No,
You know,
you don't chase it.
I don't chase it. If you didn't, you went somewhere else. That's fine. My feelings aren't hurt. There's good lawyers
Man, there's a
in
lot of
town.
people out there going to do it.
It is what it is.
That's right. There's a lot of people that
But
can
I'm
do
not
it.
taking somebody else's client away from them. It's just
No,
life's too short.
Ted, what good would it do you to reach out and grab all that and pull it to you? Would it better you in any way?
No, and life's too short for that.
And it's not worth it.
No, it's
and,
not.
And I've learned that over the years. I had a lot of people that never gave up on me, and I always tell people that I made a choice to destroy a lot of lives around me, and hurt a lot of people. And there's a lot of people that have never given up on me. And I actually have one of their bikes in my shop right now, and that would be, I call him. I actually heard this one day. Mick does world-class paint jobs. And I am blessed that in Oklahoma, there's not, my bikes don't compete in Oklahoma. I am blessed that they go out and they compete and they win. And
Your work is very outstanding,
I've been blessed.
and you've done work for just a little bit for me, some pinstriping, but
Yes.
a lot of the people we know,
Yes.
Guthrie's,
Yes, and that's what I was going to say. Billy Guthrie's.
he's a mess.
So Mike Harden, and I'm saying names now because these guys,
These are friends.
They all know that I deeply value. Mike is a recovering fella, and I love him. And when I first met him, I had and Ted can vouch for this. I have a very I don't tolerate insubordination.
Okay.
And Mike was insubordinate, and he had one or more to drink, and I had zero tolerance for him. And I was painting a box, a paint box for a lady. There's a jewelry box, and it was for a lady in Dallas, and it was wet paint. And he came up after drinking and stuck his arms in the wet paint,
No.
and I wasn't mad, and I just literally started seeing Lori, and it's not that I was mad or anything. I just said, "Hey, I told you once. Now I'm not going to tell you again. Best thing for you to do is take yourself over there and not come back over here till you're clean, till you're not drinking, And that was really a funny situation. Well, time goes on. I convicted Mike. And I said, look, I got off the fence. I used to ride the fence, one leg on each side for the Lord, but I loved the drink so much. And I would ride back and forth. And I told Mike one day, we actually had a swap meet up and I think it was a motorcycle swap meet at the drive-in in Guthrie.
Guthrie.
And Mike came over and said, blah, 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 blah. And I said, you know what? You can quote the Bible, which I cannot do. You can quote the scripture. You're so smart. You have all the common sense in the world, but you can't stop drinking. I said, what in the world is so much? Why is it? And I said, I just don't understand you, Mike. I don't understand you. And I am blessed that I have Mike in my life today, and he has not had a drink since. And I'm blessed. And God is good. And when you see him work, you will know how good he is. And as for Billy Guthrie, so the story,
You've done a lot of work for him and for his son Harley and the
I've done stuff for everybody.
whole family.
And I was actually once asked a long time ago. Billy came to my shop many, many years ago, 20 years ago, maybe more than that, 20 something. Let's say it's 25, so that would have been 24 years ago. He came to my shop. My doors used to be locked, and if you didn't have an appointment, you didn't get in my door, and I would be just drinking away and music loud, painting bikes and doing whatever I did. And Billy came to the door and then called me and said, is your door locked? And I said, yep. And then he said, you gonna unlock it? And I said, nope. And he said, well, what's the deal? And I said, you don't have an appointment, you don't get in. That's really how it was. And Billy, it took time after that. I did paint jobs for Craig. I did stuff for Kevin. And, and
I haven't seen Kevin in a long time.
yeah, evidently I was ending up doing paint for all of them. And the question was, Billy started showing up, and everybody always asked me, the question was, what did you do to become part of the Guthrie family? And I said, I don't know. And Billy's been there ever since, and all the boys. And Billy has always been there and talked to me about the Lord.
And they're just good. They're just good people.
Yes, and I think the world. I love him. I love him, and I'm blessed I got him in my life.
So here's my question to you, because I know you through them and through a lot of other people too. We have Oklahoma's just a small. I had someone tell me it's a cul-de-sac.
Yeah,
Be careful you talk about, because everybody knows everybody.
Man, and they'll run.
So
that's the best thing.
When a customer comes to you and they want to have a custom paint, they bring you the tins. How much input does the customer have versus you? Because you're an artist, you're not just a painter.
They used to just bring it to me, and I actually still do now. I got one in my shop. Actually, I got 1, 2, 3 in my shop right now. Do what you want. And I only have 3 bikes in my shop. And that's all they do. They tell me colors. Okay. Yeah, they'll just say colors. I got a bike that was just dropped off from South Dakota that he brought the whole bike. And I said, no, I don't want the whole bike. I just want the pieces. And I have, like, Billy's. They call what started this. We started the world class thing. What started the world class thing was I had people go, Guthrie's world class paint jobs, and I go, Guthrie's world class Harleys, and I go, well, you can't compete around here, because when you go somewhere else and you win what you're supposed to do somewhere else, like Sturgis, Daytona, whatever, you can't bring it here and compete, because if you get beat here, and this is what I tell my Carden. My Carden goes out and wins everywhere. You come back here and you get beat by one of these bikes around here, and you know what I'm talking about. You just got, oh man, I beat that, but they bring them bikes to me, and now the thing is mix world class paint jobs, and I used to call it the wall of shame, with all the cards with bikes I did. Now I call it the world of fame, and it's because of God. But they come and they just give the stuff to me and tell me what colors they want, and just let me do what I want. Do you stick with the design they give you, or do you do it? Well, there's a story that was just recently told again on Facebook. Someone told it, and I remembered it, and I forgot about it. I will actually strip a bike before it leaves my shop if I don't like it, and that is the truth. And I will I don't care how many hours I've had in it. There was a bike that I did many years ago called the Hulk bike, and it's still around here. And it's got an airbrush mural of a pinup on the tank. And I used to do a lot of pinups and a lot of skulls, and then I kind of left that because I didn't think the Lord would like that so much. I started changing my thinking a lot, and but I did that bike, and it was all airbrushed, the whole bike. And there was another bike right before it that belonged to the same owner that was called a Geiger bike, HR Geiger bike. And I did all the sheet metal. I did the frame. I did everything. Everything was beautiful on it. I mean, and it was, all the metal work was done by me. Stretched the tank, stretched everything, stretched the fender, did everything. And it's a beautiful bike, and it's still around. It's in a storage building. And they didn't give me any rein, nothing. They didn't hold my reins back or anything. They just do what you want. The Hulk bike, before it left, I hated it. And it was candy green and all the airbrush, and I literally took it back down and started working it again, and redid a lot of stuff on it. But it left, and I saw it not very long ago. When I say 10, 12 years ago. But it's amazing. I just restored a bike for a fella, and a guy came to my shop the other day and said, did you do the tank? It was actually the fella that was here from South Dakota. Said, I saw the tank on the ground back there in your shop. And I said, yes. And he said, did you do that bike again? I said, I did. And he said, he was asking me questions about it. And I said, yeah, I actually did that bike in 96. It was green and purple. And I actually did it again in 98. And it was orange and black. I actually did it again in 99. It was orange and black.
So 3 times.
Yeah. And then I actually fixed it again in 2001 and it was orange and black. And then I actually fixed it again in 2005. It got damaged. It was orange and black. And every time that bike's been in magazines. And it's funny, you could see the bike now. It's around here. It's an FXR and it's called Tickler.
Now, you've been in a lot of magazines. We talked about that
I'm blessed.
before. Do you have copies of all magazines you've been in?
We have some. I at one point I didn't really care anymore. And when, like I said, I was drinking a lot and I really didn't care about much anything. I really didn't. And a lot of that stuff got thrown away. A lot of it I didn't care about. I have stacks and tubs full of magazines still.
With your bikes in them?
Yes, I do. And it's neat when you look back, and it also has my hot rods. I did do hot rods too. I still do hot rods. I did a lot of hot rods that were cool. I did a lot of mini trucks. That was a craze.
Did you paint the whole truck or just do
I
the
did
pinstriping?
the whole truck. I did everything.
And your shop's big enough for a big paint booth and all that kind of
No,
stuff?
not now. It's not. It used to be.
Okay.
It used to be. And I have had people who have remembered stuff that I've done from a long time ago. I have a friend of mine that I grew up with since I was 15 years old. Still has the flat trackers.
If you're enjoying these videos, please like, subscribe, and provide comments. Make us recommendations on what you'd like to see next in the shows. Thank you for watching.
I did for him.
Now, you've painted other things too, like we talked about on your Facebook page. You've got guitars and other things too.
Yes.
I'm curious. I don't know the answer to this. Do you do any wall art? Or any actual paintings?
I did.
Do you still do any of that?
Not much. And I don't, I have people ask me all the time to do stuff. And I really don't. When I was growing up, my thing is to, everything had to look real when I did it. And I did a lot of horses, a lot of animals, dogs and stuff, people. And I just wanted to go to hot rods and, it's, I think it's in your blood, the fuel.
And I've seen what you do, and I've watched you do it. I told you I saw you not long ago at Harley World doing it, a demo day or something like that. Your wife was there actually as well.
CEO.
Yeah, CEO. And you told me that's a chief encouragement officer.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And she's pretty cool too. So
yes, she is. I'm blessed I got her. I'm blessed that God gave her to me.
And you guys been married a while now, right?
Yeah, we've been, we're trying to figure out exactly how long we were together because it took, you probably didn't know me a long time ago, but I wasn't quite the catch. I mean, I was more like to stay away guy. And, you never knew. People used to hang around me and Billy helped me a lot. Billy never gave up on me. I was always in trouble, always in trouble. I met a girl one day and we were telling a story. Actually, I get people, we go and we have lunches together. When you go have lunch,
I'd love to.
We go and have lunch and we talk about the Lord. We visit about things. And I was actually with a fellow the other day and, we were talking about something in the past. And I said, I'm going to tell you something. I said, man, the Lord is, when you start studying, and Lori, my granddaughter, comes over the other day. I have a granddaughter. I have a grandson. And I have these Bibles stacked up on the table. Then you go out in my shop and there's more Bibles. And and there's books of study. Joyce Meyer. I love her. And I like to study. And I never thought I'd ever be like that. You have people that say, I hate to read. But yet they'll get on Facebook.
And they'll play on the phone.
And they're just like all the time reading stuff on Facebook, But so he goes, he was talking to me about the CEO. He's laughing about the CEO. And I said, yeah. And he said, I remember when you were when you were at the deal? And I said, yeah. I said, the day that I met her, and she was walking across the floor, and it was so funny because I was pinstriping at Jeff Williams' show.
Okay.
And
We may have met there. I don't know.
yeah, I was up against the wall, and there was a fella standing there.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, and I always had stuff set up there. And then I had my apprentice with me sometimes, and we were there, and she was walking across the floor, and I said, "Who's that girl?" And he goes, "Now you got to understand, I wasn't a good catch, man. I was drinking mass quantities of vodka, and I was professional, and steroids and everything else you can imagine, and I was selfish, and I had everything that you could ever imagine that you would want at my beck and call. And here comes this girl, and I said to the guy that was standing there, I said, "Who is that girl?" And he said, "Oh, that's blah, blah, blah." And I said, "No, not that one. That one." He goes, "Oh, that's so-and-so's girlfriend." And I said, "What's her name?" And I literally walked right over to her and got right up to her and walked right by her. and time goes by. Every time I'd see her, I'd try and talk to her. And I was always getting in trouble. I'd either somebody come over and say something and then be a fight, and the best thing to destroy your business is beat the people up that you work for. And I did it, and I did it well. And so I was putting it back together, and I started cleaning my life up. And one day I was at a show, and she came over, and she's with that guy, and I noticed things weren't going very well. Something was said, and I said to her, I said, "You got your phone on you?" And she said, "Yeah." And I said, I was cool. I had a flip phone razor. And I said, "That's me calling you." I said, "Save that number and call me if you ever want a real man." And I looked at him and I smiled and I said, "You're not going to say nothing." And I looked at her and I said, "Call me." So, and then I went back to being Mick. And later on, I got in some trouble with some guys fighting. And she told me, I said, "Hey, call me. Call me. One of them deals, call me." And she said, "I wouldn't give you the time of day." And me and that fellow were actually talking about that. And he said, "And here she is, the CEO." And I said, "I wouldn't have it any other way." I said, "Man, I took a year off of everything. Took a year, which is where the guy came in, the guy with the jacket deal.
Right.
And he told me, he said, you're destined to fail." He said, "You understand that?" And then, of course, I had Billy said the same stuff to me. And I evidently did fail to that point. And then, when you have people around you that support you, even though you're broken, and see the good in you, it changes you completely. I took myself out of everything for a year, cleaned myself up, quit drinking, got off steroids, and quit taking anything I get in my hands. My deal was lower tabs. I'd chew up about 6 of them at a time and drink vodka with them. And I got a call one day, and it was on my birthday. And she said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Who is this?" And she said, "It's Lori." And I said, "I'm going to the gym. I'm going to Cattleman's, and I'm going home and to get up and go do it all over again." And she said, "Are you going alone?" And I said, "Yeah." And I said, "Why? You want to go to dinner?" And she went to dinner with me. And it took a little while for her to realize that I was different. And I was quite a bit different. Anybody that ever came to my house, which there wasn't many, because I was very private, you would walk in my house and it was surrounded with everything God. Everything was about God. Everything. All the music that I played, no more rock, no more nothing. And I had realized that the life I had lived, I should have never made it as far as I did. And Billy opened my eyes to that. And then the guy from Stillwater, whom I love dearly too, opened my eyes to a lot of, really he did.
He had a transformation in his life too.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. And that was, and during this, I was doing some stuff Were you familiar with the Feed the Children ride that I put together? Channel 9 grabbed a hold of it, and
I don't know.
well, I did that, and Tommy, I had some other people call me.
What time frame was this? 90s?
This was not very long ago, 2000s. It was probably, I honestly don't know the time frame, but it was probably around I started at 6, 7, maybe 2008 or 9, 10, right in those areas, because it took me a while to put everything together. I had a lot of people that were going to help me, and I actually cleaned up, and a lot of people um, were kind of reluctant, I understand. But my deal was feed the children in Oklahoma because there's a lot of kids that go to bed hungry.
You still do that?
I do different things, and
Well,
I don't boast about them because it's not because I don't want to toot my horn. I would if asked. Some people know about what I do, but we literally, I found out that what I do for a living, God has allowed me to take what I make and help people, and I make sure that I give it to Him, because if you give it to Him, He will supply you with exactly what you need. And I am blessed. I promise you.
and that's scriptural. So,
Absolutely. And you think, honestly, when you think about it, Ted, the avenues, we're all stepping stones. Everybody's a stepping stone. The person you meet will bring you to another stone, and then you go from person to person, and that's how you go through life. And it works both ways. It works good and darkness.
very
So,
nice.
you-
Now, tell me this. So, what's your next step for you? What do you want to do next as far as your career goes?
we pretty much pick and choose, and I say we, me and my CEO, we pretty much pick and choose what we want to do. I have a lot of people call. I am blessed, man. I'm telling you, I'm blessed that I get to do what I do. Now I'm looking back and I see everything what we're talking about today. I have had people contact me we have had TV shows contact us, which you know.
Cool.
And Lori's, I'm on a sat link one day. And Lori goes, she's in the house and she comes out and I'm doing an interview. And they're saying, we know you used to be with some people we talked about earlier. And I said, yeah, give us some dirt. And you remember we were talking about this. And
Yeah,
I said,
you were hesitant to come to the show. I'm like, I don't know what you're after because I'm not looking to dig dirt with anybody. I was trying to promote.
well, what exactly are you looking for? And they're going, just give us something. And then they tell me something and they'd say, yeah. And I'd say, well, yeah. And exactly how did that happen? Well, I said, look, I got to tell you. And Lori came out on one of the phone calls, and I was on the back porch, and she came out. She was standing off to the side, and I got it in front of me, and they're talking to me, and Lori goes, just tell him, just tell him. And I said, nah. And I said, you know what? I'm probably not the right guy for you guys. And then that went on 4 or 5 times.
Well, you told me the same thing. I'm not the right guy. I'm like, dude, I don't know what you
it's
think we're going to do here.
that's what I asked you. I said, man, it's like, I don't, there's nothing to hide. But the thing is we got to remember, like I told you in the beginning, if I boast, I'm going to boast in the Lord. I put Him first. And I really am like that. I have people that literally will come find me and talk to me and ask me. And, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you as good as I can tell you. And I talk to Billy quite a bit. Billy is a mentor. Like, he's the best. And I confide and I talk to him about stuff. And the guy that we were talking about from Stillwater would call me late at night and just start telling me something. We never talked about bikes. We talked about other stuff. Like, there's some funny stories. But we talk about engines. We talk about old cars.
He's into all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and we talk about tractors. And when I first met him, I was going up there because Eddie Munholland sent me up there. Name drop. Eddie was very inspirational to me in the beginning. Eddie when I was a young kid, Eddie used to tell me, I don't understand you. You could have everything you want with the talent that you have, and yet you choose to drink. And I look back and I think about that stuff, and now some people change, some people don't. As I was in a discussion at the other day, someone had came to see me, and we were visiting, and the discussion was how people change through life. You can move ahead or you can be stuck with the past. And some people choose to not change. We are in this world. This is not our home, but we're in this world to help others. And when you realize it, I'm usually real quiet because God gave me 2 ears to hear and one mouth to speak. But today I'm here to speak.
Well, I'm glad to have you. So what's your next project you're working on as far as a paint job?
Want to go back to bikes?
Yeah.
Let's talk about bikes.
What's your favorite bike?
I've had 92.
92 bikes?
Yeah.
Man,
And
you're a rookie then.
they're all top of the line.
What was your favorite?
My favorite was,
Or do you have a favorite?
see, I had a really good friend, the one that did the pink bike,
Okay.
and he built his bikes for me to ride. And he made sure people knew that. And my favorite bike was a pink chopper, and I could have bought it.
What kind of chopper was it?
It was
What was the front end?
I want to make sure I say it right because I can't even remember. Oh, no,
Handmade?
it was a Covington's frame.
Okay.
It was
They built
built,
some beautiful
it was
stuff.
built by Jerry.
Yeah.
And
We lost him a lot.
yeah,
Last
yeah,
year.
I hated that. I actually got to talk to him right before that happened. I went up to the guy's place. Me and Jerry, we'd see each other places and talk. And
We weren't close friends, but he was always nice to me.
no,
I saw him at Surges and at Bikes and Blues and that kind of
him
thing.
and Kathy were very good to me at one point, but I was I liked drinking a lot more, and I worked for them, and they were very good to me. And I'd see him and Kathy at a couple hot rod deals, and I talked to him, and the last day I went up to Foreman's when they were shutting it down. Um, Him and Kathy were there, and I missed her. Um, she was, let's see, she was at the counter doing something, and then walked into the back. They actually bought 2 bikes. They might have bought 3. I think the jury said they were thinking about buying a third one, but we sat there and visited for a little while, and he said, "Hey man, give me a call," and I said, "Yeah, okay." And um, Lori was with me, and she talked to him for a minute, and we didn't ever get to talk to Kathy, but because we got out of there right after that. I ran into a few more people I hadn't seen in a while, and Jerry was a good man. He knew how to make it happen.
He had beautiful bikes.
Yep.
Just stunning. I could count on him at the events where he was going to be because of the same
Yeah.
location and everything he did.
I was always fortunate enough to. I was down at Easy Rider show in Dallas, and
I've not been to one of those. I think I need to go do that.
it's a good show. This is many years ago, and I ran into Jerry, and I was with Butch. My buddy Butch Thomas, with the Blue Devil bike.
I've seen the bike.
It was a beautiful bike, and we did that bike, and it was our first. I think it was our first time out. I can't remember. And here's how it happens. We go. Of course, we went to Daytona, and I rode the pink bike, and we seen Jerry and Kathy in Daytona, and ran into some people I did bikes for, and I was blessed that I ran across a couple people that I did some bikes for, some famous people, and we ran across them, and we ripped around on the bikes, and we had fun. And we didn't really get into showing. We did photo shoots, did a lot of photo shoots. A ride through Tacoma Park, photo shoot, video, for Easy Riders, and then we did hot bike stuff, and went and visited with everybody, and my highlight of the day was when I was walking. The guy I told you about earlier,
Right.
from California, that introduced me to everybody.
Right.
We're on Main Street, me and Butch. We take the bikes and we park, and we're going to there's a restaurant at the end of the street before you go over the bridge, Causeway Bridge. And I'm walking in the restaurant, and the guy you said earlier, his son, and uh, he's coming out the door, Harlan, and he goes, Mick, what are you doing? And we literally sat there and talked, and that was the highlight of my whole trip, because that trip was just it was just so much. We had to be here, we had to be there, and we were supposed to go to steak dinner with him, and I just couldn't make it because we were having to run here and run there, and that's usually what it was for me at shows. That's why we really don't go anymore. But as far as the Easy Rider show, it's so laid back. You go in there, and we took that bike. We took one, and I ran into Jerry, and I talked to Jerry briefly, and I think they brought 8 or 12 bikes, and it was funny. Butch and me were standing there, and Rusty was there. Do you know Rusty Cornett? Rusty was there, and we were hanging out with Rusty a little bit.
I know a Rusty. I'm not sure.
Yeah, Rusty used to have Okie sleds.
Yeah, I do. That's what I was thinking about.
I love
down the
Rusty,
south side of
man.
town.
Yes, I love Rusty, and
I haven't seen him.
oh my gosh, man, I love him. He's got if he sees this, we still got a lunch date. But I always tell him that we were down there with all them, and we're hanging out, and the whole show's over with. And this is awesome. But this sums it all up. The whole trip, everything I've ever done. And we're there at the show, and all the awards are given out. Now, we brought one bike, and all the awards are given out. And I turn around to Butch and I go, you got to be kidding me. We didn't get nothing. I didn't cuss, but I said, man, let's get out of here. We're done. Let's load the bike up and go. And we're walking off, and I hear the top award was the editor's choice. And it was given to Butch Thomas for the Blue Devil.
Very nice.
And he grabbed me like, and pulled me back. And it was really cool because all the work, we put that bike together for Daytona. Me and Butch built that bike. A lot of guys, Greg Baker helped on that. And I love Greg.
Good guy.
He's a good friend of mine. And I'm blessed to have him in my life. And we all came together on that bike. It was pouring rain, sleeting, and cold, and we were leaving for Daytona. We didn't get to ride the bike. We put it in the trailer, and I said, we'll tune it when we get to Florida. And Butch said, we'll tune it when we get to Florida, because we're going to be at sea level anyway. And it had a Carl Speed Shop Typhoon on it. The other bike had a Typhoon on it, and everybody hated those carburetors, but we loved them because they're only one way, on or off. And we got down there. Didn't have no problems. We rode them bikes. I did zap the flywheel on the pink bike, but I pulled all that apart, put it back together, right there in the parking lot. And we were blessed that we took that bike. And then after Butch won that award, sets the whole scenario for everything you ever do. Earlier, we were talking about that award deal. Right. When you go and show at all the big shows, and then you come back to Oklahoma. He won the highest award you can ever get. You can't show that bike again because you can only go down. Right. And that bike lived in, I'd say, just solace. Nobody really didn't get seen much, because of that right there. And it was bad because, when you get to that point, and I remember talking to Jerry about that night. He said, what'd you get? And I said, I didn't get anything, but the bike got the editor's choice. And he said, man, it's good. And I said, yeah. What are you going to do with it?
Yeah, where do you go from here?
I don't. And I always tell Billy, now I'm doing a panhead for Billy. And I always joke around. The problem is I don't do regular bikes anymore. I do show bikes. Everybody's going to show one. And we got one in there that is totally molded fiberglass, and I despise fiberglass. But it's all put together. It's all molded. It's immaculate. It's unbelievable. It's done with a paint that you will not see around here. The paint's 30 years old. And and then Billy's bike is done with raw glass. I don't
Wow.
know if you've seen that
I
already.
have not. I've not seen Billy in a while.
Billy's frame is being put together right now, and the paint that's on the bike is raw glass. Last year I called it the year of glass because I did one bike, my bike, in the beginning, and everything throughout that year had raw glass in it because it'd been like 15 or 20 years since I did glass. And Howard's bike, Howard Kelly's, the Blue Devil bike, was the first bike I ever did with raw glass, and that was back in 2000.
Now, do you have pictures of that? The Blue Devil
The
bike?
Blue Devil bike, I do it. I have one picture when they were doing the photo shoot, and I put it on Facebook. It's on Facebook, and then the other bike, Howard Kelly is actually doing a wheelie on it. I just posted it the other day. It's a Dyna, and it was a second bike with glass. And then I did one more, and that was it because it was so hard to do it. When I went to Daytona, I was sick from the glass, and it was real glass, and I didn't know. But as far as riding, I love riding my bikes. I had the last bike I had, which you seen the FLH. I just recently sold, had beautiful flames on it. I told Lori, I said, I love riding, and I had a chance to buy a bike the other day. I get people call me all the time with bikes. We're gonna call Mick, man, and I mean, hey, man, he's rich, but they think that, But you work for your living, and when you get a bike, you treasure it because they're just so. I love spindly choppers. I love panheads, knuckleheads. I like a spindly back tire and a nice little. The prettiest bike I ever seen was called Elvira, and it was in Sturgis, and the guy was a plumber, and it was an old. I think it was either panhead or knucklehead. I can't really remember. It's red, black, and white, and it was just a beautiful little Springer, beautiful bike, little bobber. But scooters are meant to putt around on.
They need to be ridden, and I've got some that I'm not riding, and I regret that. So
What do you got now?
I've got a few out there.
Few. I had a few.
I don't have as many as you did, but I got a few out
There's
there.
the funny story about the CEO is when she was coming around, she said, when she called me for my birthday, she said, "What are you doing?" And I said, I was actually with the girls." And she said, "Oh, the girls, huh?" And I said, "Yeah, we call the scooters girls. I call the scooters girls. The scooters lived in the house." So she said, and it was funny because she knew where I lived, and not very many people did. And she said, "Well, what are you doing now?" And I said, "Well, I'm out here visiting with them, for a minute. I was working on them. I was building a new one." And she said, "Really?" And I said, "Well, where are you at?" And she said, "I'm outside your garage. Open your door." So I opened the door, and there she is. And she said, "The girls, huh?" And I said, "Yeah." Well, over the years, we've had many other girls, but they became ours. And we just started calling them mistress, and Lori rode at me quite a bit. And we enjoyed the bikes, and we still enjoy them. The last one that I got, my FLH, I took it out the day I took it out to sell it. I took it out and I decided I was going to sell it because I have a truck that I've had for 40 years.
I've seen pictures of it.
Yeah, and I'm trying to get it done. And then she has a truck. Lori has a 41 Ford that's called Lady Bella.
Nice.
Beautiful lady. And then we have the Riviera, which is Millie. Mildred Heath was originally built for her. And my wonderful friend Jim passed away, and I ended up with the car, which was his baby. And we treasure her. And we're blessed that we have we used to have Christine, the flame truck, which I built for Michael, which I think you might remember, the orange flame truck.
All right.
And Michael decided to sell her, and we sold her. And I think about that stuff now, and I've been blessed so much to have scooters, but my favorite one was always my blue Softail. I had a blue Fat Boy that I bought from Wild West way back when, and it was very hopped up, 80 cubic inch. And then of course there was the blower bike. Then of course there was I've been blessed to have a lot of them, but my favorite must have been My favorite must have been my blue Screaming Eagle, my black and blue one. You remember that
I
one?
do. I love
I
that bike.
loved her so much, and I did love her, but she went to buy Lori a house, and she went to a wonderful friend of mine, Frankie, out in I think he's in Vegas.
Now tell us that you're mixed pinstriping. Do you have a
Mixed
website,
Pinstriping.
social media? What do you have?
I'm on Facebook, and it's my full name. I used to just go by Mick. I still do, but it's my last name's Ofsak, Ofsak, German, and I now everybody asks me, they'll look and they'll try and find me, and I have people. I didn't even know this till the other day. I had to go look. I have a mix page,
Okay.
and I don't know if you've ever been to it, but it's on Facebook. And I literally went the other day. I haven't updated it in so long. A guy, usually I don't post a lot of stuff that I do anymore, and I'm really bad about that. And what happened was there's a car that's I'm actually working on right now, pinstriping it flames. It was flamed by someone, and it just didn't work out. And now we're going to make it work out. And I'm blessed that I get to do the stuff that I am. I am living the life that God has chose for me, and I am truly blessed. And I mean, I get to meet people and share the Lord, and that's the biggest thing with me right now. I mean, I'm blessed I get to do what I do, but you know,
Well, I'm glad you came on today.
huh,
I appreciate you coming today, Mick. I've enjoyed our company together, and thank you very much for coming out.
no, thank you.
This is
God bless you, man.
Ted with Let Out the Clutch, sponsored by My Biker Attorney. Stay tuned. Thank you very much. That was fun.
So I wore that thing out, didn't I? Is that what you wanted?
She'll make us pretty. Yeah. Well, I'm just trying to, promote the people around me doing things.
Are all those turned off now? Okay. We had Discovery, and I don't know if I went into detail.
You didn't tell me this.
We were talked to.
Recently?
This is a few years back, and I was with Lori, and it was when we were living where we're at, and I was approached before then, and my deal was like this.